Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Jason Hidalgo joins us. He's the Reno Gazette-Journal's business and technology reporter, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School for workwear and everyday wear. Evaporative coolers, outdoor living, Weber's, Traeger's, and Lodge. Fill your propane tanks here. Big R on Bering Boulevard in Sparks, next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. Big R. Hardware, clothing, and a whole lot more.
Valley Inn, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley Inn.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are pleased to welcome to the program for the first time Jason Hidalgo. He is the Reno Gazette-Journal's business and technology reporter. It is a pleasure to have you here, sir. I've been reading you for a very long time and enjoyed your work.
Thank you. I've been watching you for a long time, so it's great to be here for the first time. Hope you don't regret it.
No, I won't, and I hope you don't either. I wanted to start out with what seemed to be an extraordinary city council meeting last week for the Reno City Council. We're taping this on August 2nd, so it's been the last week in July. And what seemed to come out of that was an incredible amount of honesty from the city council people, including the mayor, about the situation in downtown Reno. Would you share what you observed?
Yeah, that was a pretty eventful city council meeting. There's always something going on, and that was you could have written 4 stories just from that one meeting. And anytime you see Councilmember Jenny Brekas and the mayor agreeing on something, it's worth noting. So I believe the mayor was pretty much voicing her displeasure as far as a lot of properties downtown being held by their owners and just kind of sitting there without any improvements. And so given the focus on blight and making downtown a better place, I guess, for businesses and for tourists, that was the main complaint that the mayor was voicing at that meeting, which was surprising for a lot of folks. I was getting texts while that meeting was going on with people saying, hey, do you see what the mayor is saying? And so, yeah, it's been a long time issue as far as downtown, I'm sure you know. But even back in the days of Mayor Bob Kischel, I remember him, the last time I saw him was at the lobby of the Reno Gazette-Journal. And it was right after the decision was made about the King's Inn. And that was kind of his white whale for the longest time. And
this was a property that they were trying to redevelop, and they couldn't get it done. And then finally it did get done, and it's been quite successful.
Yes, and I remember he was there in the lobby, and he was like, I got it done. The King's Inn's finally done.
All right, so to give our friends in Southern Nevada some perspective on this, if you take a look at Apex, the industrial park, that has a lot of owners, and the state and North Las Vegas has wanted to develop that as an industrial park. But getting all those folks who own that land down there to agree on anything has been incredibly difficult. Even more difficult was to get them to put up money. The issue in downtown Reno is that you have several very well developed properties like the Row, for example, which is Caesar's property, 4,000 rooms in downtown Reno. You have Calneva, You have the movie theaters, you have a lot of things that have been developed, but you also have all these properties, basically storefronts for the most part, but also empty lots that have been owned for decades, as you pointed out, and the owners are just sitting there. Are they basically just waiting for property values to go up before they sell them? Is that really what we're looking at?
I know that's what the mayor believes. Like she mentioned specifically the Byington building, which used to be a beautiful building in the past until they took out all the exterior sort of like design of it. And now it's just like this square thing that's been there forever. And so, yeah, there's like a question as far as like what's going to happen with these properties. Like obviously there's a lot of interest in redevelopment, but they've just been sitting there. And so it's been a challenge because it's like private property. So there's only a limited amount of things that obviously the city can do. But obviously property values in Reno have skyrocketed like since the Great Recession. And so there's a lot of like just pretty much holding on to see like maybe if a buyer comes in and like pays like big money for it. Like obviously Jacobs like paid big money for several parcels, like as of like Jacobs Entertainment, who owns the J Resort, which used to be the Sands Regency.
Right.
Like, I believe as of late last year, acquired 77 parcels total. I haven't checked recently.
All right, well, let's get to that in a moment because that's another whole issue. In fact, let's take a quick break and let's come right back. Lots more to talk about with Jason Hidalgo of the Reno Gazette-Journal after this. As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Fantastic cocktails and delicious food.
It's a good time to eat.
Over 500 hot slots, plus electronic table games.
It's a good time to play.
Player rewards and big-time jackpots.
It's a good time to win.
Ooh, your good times, a tamarack.
Remember 2010 in northern Nevada, 13 to 14% unemployment, thousands of homes in foreclosure, Nevada's casinos closing? Families in the Reno-Sparks area were hurting. Many were losing everything. Then Story County launched a game changer for our region, a public-private industrial partnership, streamlined permitting, slashed bureaucracy, attracting Fortune 500 companies that made Nevada their home. Story County generated a river of cash to area communities. Economic studies by the state and others for the Gigafactory consistently show positive economic benefits for our region. $4 billion in local wages, $17 billion in consumer spending and economic activity, over $100 million in taxes to Washoe, Story, Reno, Sparks, and Nevada, just for the Gigafactory alone. Story County, improving northern Nevada one industry at a time.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jason Hidalgo. He is the Reno Gazette-Journal's business and technology reporter. And we were talking about downtown Reno. So what would the mayor like to see these property owners who have all these, not necessarily empty properties, but they're t-shirt shops, they're as much as can be the lowest rent things that you could find in terms of quality, but the highest cost in terms of rent for the property owners?
Well, what she wants to see is pretty much like a reflection of what happened with Midtown, which was a lot more organic. And so obviously Midtown is thriving right now. She did mention how it wasn't always that way. Like it was a pretty blighted place as well. And the business owners there pretty much were the ones who drove the transformation of Midtown, which is what she would like to see with downtown. Have like more like shops that would like make families want to go to downtown more, like make more people want to go downtown as opposed to like those old shops that you mentioned. And so she did express some skepticism in terms of what the city was trying to do with the placemaking study, because she thought it was not quite as organic as what happened with Midtown. And so it remains to be seen, I guess, what happens as far as like this project that they're working on.
And let's face it, it's pretty difficult, to make something, come alive like that when it took so many years for Midtown to go from, basically a pretty sleazy place to a place that's full of hip bars and restaurants and stores and very walkable. Downtown has a lot of issues going on there. One of the issues, and you were watching this discussion as well, was that there is an entertainment complex that wants to come into the old Harrah's building downtown, which is a pretty vast property. It's had its ups and downs because of financing and people who are going to come in as tenants that came and now they're not going to be there, so that's delayed things. One partner had to pull out because he had a conflict of interest with another property he's developing. But this seemed like a pretty exciting property where they would have 3 different areas of entertainment with around 200 slot machines. And it seemed like that was going to be a pretty fun venture for people downtown. Not so thinking the same way the city council and the mayor.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting, to say the least. Obviously, there's been a lot of questions about Reno City Center. It's just been sort of star-crossed, like ever since it started. It started out kind of like on a high note, and then like delays happened with COVID, and then one thing happened after another, like delays happened with wildfires. There's always like something going on over there. Recently, they just had to delay like that particular project with the Fine Entertainment Group because they found like something underneath that was kind of like from the old days and it wouldn't support like the new project. So there's always something going on. But that was interesting because for the first time people were like, oh, something's finally coming in there, like which was the first thing that happened there since the Starbucks, I guess. Because people were asking me if that was a dead project or not. And I would call CII at the time and they're saying, no, we're still going forward, we just have delays. And so, yeah, there's like, there was a permit application, including a gaming license for these bars, which are experiential bars.
Which was already approved by the Gaming Control Board.
Yes, it was approved by the Gaming Control Board. So I guess the guy thought it was just going to be an easy process going through the city council, but then questions were raised as far as the number of slot machines and whether that requires a conditional use permit. And that sort of started like the whole debate, and then it got put on hold. So, and I talked to the guy, Jonathan Fine. He was like there for 4 hours because it was a pretty long meeting that had all sorts of stuff happening. So I think it's a good idea to ask questions, make sure things are like as they should be. And I mean that's my job. I ask questions. But I was a little bit surprised about how it seemed unprepared the city council was as far as tackling that particular issue.
That they weren't really aware of what was going on, which seems bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they've had conversations maybe with the business or what have you. Like for some, it sounds like that was the first time they were hearing about it. Like it's one thing, like obviously it's good to ask questions, but like, you schedule a vote, you'd think that by the time you schedule a vote, and I think the staff was recommending the approval, that you'd have that stuff already taken care of before you schedule a vote. And so now it's put on hold, and put on background. And it's just one of the things I've noticed a lot, not just with city council, but with other boards or commissions, like the Planning Commission, even RSCVA. It's like people on the board or the council kind of like either sound surprised or don't quite know what's going on. Like the most memorable thing I remember was do you remember the Apple facility downtown when that was being approved?
Yes.
I was at the Planning Commission, I believe.
That was to get tax breaks. It was
exactly.
It was almost like a phony deal to put in a fake office so that you could get tax breaks for being in the downtown area.
Yeah, it was more like a holding facility. Yeah, right. And when the vote was done, one of the commissioners, I can't remember who it was, but he was like, "So when is this Apple store opening?" And it just shocked me. It's like the guy thought he was voting for an Apple store. So, but yeah, that was one of the things that just sort of I've noticed sometimes with commissions or boards is there's just not enough understanding, or there's confusion as far as what's going on. And that was the case with this city council meeting, whether it be with fine or even with a placemaking study. There were a lot of times council members said they were confused as far as what exactly they were voting on.
You know what's so bizarre is that, and I've heard this over the years, is that on these, especially larger boards, you'll have 1 or 2 people who really go through every piece of information and are fully informed, and a lot of people are there because they got elected. And so it's kind of interesting. Do you think, because I got several phone calls suggesting this without any evidence, so I'm just asking, that the other properties, the gaming properties downtown, were concerned to have a facility with 200 slot machines that might be encroaching on their territory. So I'm thinking, the Row might be concerned, Calneva might be concerned, certainly the J Resort, which is just reopened as their new property, that might have brought pressure onto the council.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that. Obviously, I haven't talked to the casinos about it, but one of the things I remembered when that whole thing was happening while I was watching the meeting was what happened with the Sparks Casino. Because when the casino at Legends opened, I remember I was interviewing the general manager, and he sounded really upset that it took that long for that casino to open, and he blamed just politics for it, and pretty much the established gaming companies throwing roadblock after roadblock to delay that project.
This sounds like the movie Casablanca. There's gaming back there?
Yeah, and so that was one of the things that popped up in my mind. So obviously, like you said, I don't have direct sort of confirmation as far as if that was the case, but I could only imagine what the concerns were as far as another sort of gaming property.
Because these were sports bars and things like that. It sounded like exactly what Reno would want in the downtown area, because you've had the mayor on this program last year talking about esports at the bowling stadium. So it would sound like a couple of blocks away to have 3 hot bars going would be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people have seen what Fine has done in Las Vegas as far as these types of properties. It's very different from your typical bar. They have a bowling alley. They have a lot of games. They've pretty much made it almost like an experience to go to the bar. So it's not just a slot parlor. I know that was one of the concerns, but yeah, it's
somebody compared it to Dottie's, which I thought was really bizarre.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the concern was what if we approve this and then it doesn't pan out and then we end up with just a slot parlor, which I guess is a legitimate concern to have given what's happened with downtown. But based on what I've seen as far as what they've done in Vegas, it's a totally different type of thing. So yeah, I know a lot of people were initially excited because they thought Reno City Center was in trouble, so it was good to have somebody coming in. But yeah, it was a bit surprising as far as how things turned out.
And one other quick thing on this, it looks like that project is going to be more of a hotel concept than what was originally discussed.
Yeah, that's when I was talking to Jonathan Fine with Fine Entertainment, what he told me was that current ownership has been kind of going back and forth on that for the longest time, because originally it was supposed to be apartments, which everybody was fine with, and then obviously CI left and sold their stake to Griffin Capital.
Right, which is, by the way, a Vegas company from an original Reno kid, but who is now a Vegas businessman.
Yes. And so they were kind of, from what I've heard, they haven't quite figured out yet whether they want to do apartments or hotels. Obviously, it's going to be different depending on what they pick. The Fine Entertainment Group was say they're fine with either, no pun intended, they were fine with either concept because it would still bring people regardless. But that's one of the questions right now, because that was the reason that Chris Bevore cited as far as him leaving that project, was because he's developing the Kimpton and he has a non-compete with the Kimpton as far as hotel rooms, which is why they did apartments over there. And so, yeah, that's one of the questions as far as what's going to happen. I don't have the same access with Griffin as I do with CAI. Griffin, just like any capital investment firm, is a lot more kind of guarded as far as talking to media. So I haven't quite confirmed what their plans are, but just based on people who know what's going on, that's what I've heard is they're still kind of debating.
All right, let's change to a different topic. We'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about Jeff Jacobs and the J Resort after this timeout.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jason Hidalgo. He's the Reno Gazette Journal's business and technology reporter, and we're talking about things going on in downtown Reno. The J Resort is what used to be the Sands Regency in downtown Reno, a property that had fallen and fallen and fallen. And Jeff Jacobs has come in and invested a ton of money into this property. It looks beautiful. The exterior looks beautiful. The interior looks beautiful. But he created controversy, and you mentioned the number of properties he has purchased in downtown Reno. What was that number again?
77 parcels as of late last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing amount of land. But a lot of those parcels had really terrible motels on them with all kinds of health issues and things. And the defense of them was, not because of what Jacobs was doing, but with the previous owners, that this was low-income housing and, you know, it was fine. But in fact, these places were rat-infested, cockroach-infested, you name it. They were health hazards, they were building hazards. So in a lot of ways, I think that people thought that it was a really good idea to get rid of these horrible eyesores. And yes, we need to do something about housing the people that used to live there. But certainly the circumstances they were in, a lot of folks would think were terrible places to be. Now he has expanded the property itself of the Sands Regency, now called, as I said, the J Resort, and has lots of other properties available. Where do you think that this is heading at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that he's invested money in that property. I think it's $300 million.
Yeah, it's up there.
So there's no question that he's at least put money into that property. The question obviously is what he's going to do with the kind of surroundings, which is where the debate is. Because the last proposal he had was for the 1,000 workforce housing units,
right,
that he was going to donate one of the parcels. But that's sort of been in limbo for the longest time, because that one would have been an expensive project as well. Like, we estimated it would cost more than $300 million to build it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to develop it. He wants the city and the RHA to take the lead.
The Reno Housing Authority.
Yeah, but it's in limbo, and last year they submitted a permit to turn it into a parking lot. So obviously nothing's going to happen there for a while, and so that's just one of the concerns as far as what's going to happen with the other parts of that particular corridor. So obviously, besides J Resort, you have places like the Bonanza Inn, the Sundowner. I know the Reno Housing Authority wanted to they made a pitch, or an unsolicited sort of pitch for the Sundowner to turn that into affordable housing, and that didn't work out, and so they pretty much gave up on that, which is unfortunate because we've seen that in places like Denver. Well, they'll take old properties like that, turn them into either workforce housing or transitional housing for folks who are homeless, so they could get back on their feet. And so yeah, that's basically sort of the main issue right now, is what's going to happen with some of those parcels, because Jacobs have seen delays as well in terms of his own plans. A lot of it has to do with how financing has changed nationally with interest rates and what have you. So that's the main question. There's no question the J Resort is doing really well, at least in terms of upgrades and stuff. It's just what's around it and how.
Well, and I think that the benefit to downtown and to Reno in general from the J Resort is that Mr. Jacobs owns properties all across the country, especially in Black Hawk in Colorado, where he competes with Caesars and with Monarch, who owns Atlantis in Reno, and has a huge property in Cleveland that has been very successful. You would think that with all the marketing that he's going to have to do to be able to fill his hotel rooms, that would do nothing but bring business to downtown Reno and accomplish some of the goals that the City Council is looking toward in terms of revitalizing the downtown.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that people like Jacobs face, or even CAI or Reno City Center, is they kind of came after certain folks came in and like had all these big sort of promises and nothing panned out. Like I remember when Siegel came in and everybody was like, wow, and then you look at the Virginia now, it's not even painted over, and it's like weekend stays or whatever, or weekly stays. And I think that's part of the reason why like there's more scrutiny in terms of like Jacobs and Reno City Center and all these other places, is because people have seen like, companies come in before, make sort of like big promises and nothing pans out. I mean, to their credit, they're at least like doing something you could see. So it's just...
And Mr. Jacobs is a billionaire, and so he does have the cash, to be able to do things himself. And that place, certainly, I was just going through there a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, and they've done a very nice job of putting that place back together. It looks way, way better than it did before.
Oh, yes, it does.
So we'll have fingers crossed that this will be a successful property. Well, thank you so much for coming in, and we appreciate it. And please come back, because there's lots of other things I'd like to talk to you about, especially your technology side, because I'm having trouble with my phone.
I have like 3 right here.
But no, seriously, come back, okay?
Yes,
We'd appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
7 at 7 is a newscast built for your smartphone. It's a 7-minute newscast available every weekday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at lvrj.com. We don't waste your time, and we give you the day's top stories.
We at the RJ have noticed some similarities between us and a certain BTS character, RJ.
Plus the latest in Las Vegas business, weather, health, and entertainment news. 7 at 7 streaming now on your smartphone.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. You can catch us online 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com, or you can download the podcast wherever you like to get your podcast. We'll see you on the next broadcast.